It's a lovely day and welcome back to the 11 o'clock Waffle. I am Mac Forsyth and we've got another show coming up full of fun facts and frolics. First up, co-founder of Bristol's Tobacco Tea Company and the man behind Bunbury is Dead, which you can see in Bath next month. It's Christopher Cutting.
Oh, great to be back, Mac. Yeah, you can also see it in Bristol and in Edinburgh as well. But I'll save the big plug for the end of the show just to keep you listening. Anyway, hi.
Hi. How is the Tobacco Tea Company going? Is it well?
Yeah, things are going well. We're sort of waiting on the Arts Council for another show to go into sort of R&D. I've just cut Bunbury and we're about to go into rehearsal for the cut version, and then we will be on in Bath at the end of June, and then Bristol in July. And then Edinburgh for all of August, up at the Edinburgh Fringe. It's going to be fantastic. I'm really excited.
Excellent stuff. Next up, a debutant who was given his waffle orders less than 24 hours ago. A big thank you to this guest for taking the plunge at such short notice. It's Dan Martin.
And good afternoon or good evening to yourselves.
Welcome to the show, Dan. How are you?
Yes, it was 24 hours ago, probably even less than that, so that you asked me to have a go with this, and I'm not too bad. I'm getting there, slowly. Thank God for time to relax with all these kind of things. Yourself?
Yep, no, pretty good. Looking forward to a fantastic show. Sounds like we've got a good lineup, especially when we get to our next guest. Returning for his second appearance of the third series, he was finally defeated last time out by his nemesis Chris Stanley. The man with the ponytail is back. It's Edgar Duncan.
Hello! Yep, I'm here.
Ed?
I'm back. You can't get rid of me, can ya?
No, you've been on since the very first show, all the way back in January 2009?
Something
No,
ridiculous.
10, 11.
Something ridiculous like that. It was after I did Biorhythm, I think so. I think it was 2010. No.
2010 to 11.
It wasn't 2011, it was 2010.
2010, yes, it was the Christmas waffle.
No.
Blimey.
Simply having a wonderful Christmas time.
And that's just a teaser of our Christmas special coming up later this year. Anyway, shall we move on with the questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Question number 1. Keeping it local at the minute, BBC Radio Devon host David Lowe lost his job after playing a 1932 version of The Sun Has Got His Hat On. Except he lost his job because it contained the N-word. This the week after Jeremy Clarkson was allowed to keep his job for allegedly saying the N-word. So who else has been unlucky to lose their job? And we'll start with Chris on this one.
Okay, I'm going to say Karl Dönitz, who was he was the Grand Admiral in the Nazis' navy in World War II, and Commander-in-Chief. When Hitler killed himself, he was named Hitler's successor as Reichspräsident, as the head of state, as the president. And it's a bit of bad luck sort of landing this job when Hitler's just died and the Soviets are all in the city. And well, he kind of had to immediately surrender. He surrendered after about a week, and then get chucked into the Nuremberg trials. So it's not really the best job to sort of get, but it'd be a great job if you'd gotten it at a different time.
You said if he'd been allowed more time, he could have changed things around.
Yeah, he was somewhat unlucky to lose it, but he was kind of doomed. There was nothing he could really do. It's just bad luck.
Okay, Ed.
He could have not been named to it. Made Hitler hate him or something.
I don't have anyone famous per se, because I'm going to go out on a limb here and actually name myself, if that's all right. Because before I got the job I had now, it's just a big run of bad luck that happened. And one of the jobs I had, I don't mind about naming him because of the things that happened, was a job called Advertising Online, and I was there for like 3.5 days, I think. I was just incredibly unlucky to really lose my job there for the fact that they didn't really get on with me, if you know what I mean. The staff there didn't like me, so what they ended up doing is sort of pushing me into a corner to try and get me out by saying I made too many small mistakes when I legitimately didn't when I looked into it later on. But it's just because they didn't like me. So I was a bit unlucky there.
That sounds about like 3/4 of my jobs, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Don't tell me your answer's about you being fired, Dan.
No, I wish it was, because I could probably go on for a very, very long time about the amounts of times that people say they don't like me or have very unusual things to say about me. But that's for another episode or some other time. My one would actually be quite a recent one also, not something as important or historical as previous. Yes. But mine would actually be something a little bit more sporty. It would probably be more recently David Moyes for the Manchester United footballing gig. For the simple reason that he has to follow someone who has been at the top of their game for 25 years. And basically he has one season to prove that he can do exactly the same as someone who'd been doing it for, a couple of decades. And about 3 games before the end of the season, they decide, oh yes, we must remove you because obviously you're not doing as good as your predecessor, who was the most successful manager ever created across footballing at the moment. So I would say that David Moyes is a very, very unlucky man in that respect.
That's a very good first answer. On to question number 2 now. A sign in Pontypridd was placed upside down. So other examples of literal bad signs. Ed.
I love English signs, to be honest with you. So, sort of those signs from primarily Japan, other countries as well. They don't quite translate, have made the jump in translation to English. So my example is this particular one, which would be a sign to, well, you make of it what you will first. Hang on. It says, "Don't droppings! Who owns this pet? You must teach us your dog manners. Then we are dog lovers each other. Thank you."
It sounds like something here.
Yeah, it sounds like something that could legitimately be somewhere about. But yeah, it is a sign that just hasn't made the translation very well. So yeah, pick up your dog droppings and then we can get on with each other, guys.
Okay, Dan, what have you got?
I remember, and this is going to be a little bit kind of a jump as such. It's not really a bad sign as such, but it's more of a kind of falling out with the local council. There was a while, I don't know how long ago it was now, but there was a village or a town in the UK that was actually named Willie, and over a period of time, there was a lot of... what happened was the sign got stolen. They had a very long and arduous process to actually have the sign re-put up because the council believed that it wasn't that it was fake, it was just the fact that they believed it was rude and it shouldn't be up in the first place. So they had to campaign for, I think it was 12, 13 years for them to actually put the sign back up after it originally got stolen.
13 years?
So yeah. So if you ever go somewhere towards the Midlands and you see that town or the sign somewhere, just make sure it's actually still there. That would be good.
I'm going to have to seek this out now, considering I am Midlands based.
And then steal it.
It's not to lose your Willy for 13 years.
Yeah.
Wanted, lost Willy.
It's Free Willy.
Unusual Lonely Hearts column.
Okay, Chris.
Okay, I'm going to go with a story from Swansea Council, who asked for a no entry for heavy goods vehicles sign. This was in the news quite a while back. And they ended up, so they could get a Welsh translation to put, on the sign, because it's Wales. And they got an out-of-office reply, and they copied it and pasted it on the sign. So there's a sign for no entry for heavy goods vehicles, etc. in English, and it's got sort of "I am out of the office at the moment. Please leave any work to be translated" underneath it in Welsh.
Brilliant.
Nobody noticed until it was actually put up.
Yeah, I think one of my favourite ones is that we were playing one of these DVD games or Buzz games a couple of weeks back, and the sign on it was of a wheelchair going down a ramp into the mouth of an alligator. And it's a genuine sign for beware falling into the alligator pit.
Especially people in wheelchairs, apparently.
Because it's a ramp. because it's a ramp down to the alligator pit.
They see me rolling. Oh dear.
Don't come with brakes attached anymore then.
Yeah. Question 3 now. Penny Dreadful has begun on Sky this week. It features Timothy Dalton, so how can it not be awesome? Set in the Victoria period and delving into literature from the time, this pretty much leads us on to the question: Victorian literature characters that you would like to see either get their own television series or movie. Dan?
Strangely, I don't know if it's a fictional one, because it's one of the things that you probably have done more often, and there's quite a lot of them around, but I'd always be interested in either it's more of, ironically, Jack the Ripper, and I know that they recently did a TV series as such, but I would like to see an actual, like a docu-movie in the sense of that respect, because it would be an incredible thing of how you can try and figure out how it worked, how he was as a person, and it's an incredible subject matter. It's something that I've always been interested in.
Indeed. Or wait for my novel, A Ripper in Time, to finally be finished and published.
Yes, there is that as well. You know, the shameless plug of that respect was quite good, I thought.
And the stage adaptation by the Tobacco Tea Company. Yes, Chris?
You never know. If I can make it a comedy. Actually, I'll tell you what. I wrote a farce when I was 17 about Jack the Ripper. Won the house drama. I did it back at school. So I have actually written a play about Jack the Ripper before. It was just absurd. It was sort of 10 minutes of tons and tons of deaths and farce. But Victorian literature characters I would like to see get their own TV series. So it was really hard because I sort of thought all of the obvious ones are kind of already been done because people love that. But there's one, Count Fosco from The Woman in White, who is a sort of massively obese, sort of really contradictory. He's a super criminal and a kind of amazing liar, but he masquerades as this sort of grossly obese Italian who, with all of these refined sensibilities, who sort of weeps at the evening sunset and has lots of little mice and birds and he keeps lots of little birds in a cage and things. But he also manages to kind of really creepily move around silently despite his weight and have eyes like Napoleon and really weirdly smooth skin even though he's like 60 and he sort of seems to abuse his wife behind the scenes and things because he manages to kind of make her bow. He's a really interesting, really weird, strangely lulzy sort of supervillain character, and I would love to see him with his own series. I just think, or his own movie. So there's sort of scenes where he sort of weeps that they might not profane the night with lighting the candles and as he sort of plots to murder various women, and when he's at the opera he sort of lords it over all the dull English peasants, saying kind of, I am teaching them by clapping at the most exquisite phrases of music. So, I am the great Count Fosco, me! It's the most amazing thing. So yeah, I'd like a TV series about that, or a movie.
Almost like some sort of villain that Philip Pullman's written about. It sounds nearly exactly the same kind of
really?
Kind of, I don't know, it reminds me of reading one of the Victorian novels. It just sounds such like it. But I would imagine that...
This is Count Fosco from The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. It's like 1854, I think.
He was the first then, maybe a doppelganger.
Yeah, probably. Philip Pullman is Wilkie Collins in disguise.
I am near enough certain about this.
Yeah.
Right. Edgar.
I notice a theme going on here with the sort of villainous behind-the-scenes nastiness here, because I thought, we have the very well-known Sherlock Holmes series, but what I would love to see is something on Watson specifically, because I don't think he's as clean-cut as he makes out to be. And it's funny because Chris went down this route just a minute ago, and I actually think Watson is actually a villain himself, a total villain. I'd love to see a series that focuses on him being the actual culprit for like half of these murders and things that go on that Sherlock actually has to figure out and then gets entirely wrong, but everyone else thinks it's right. I think Watson would be amazing as a little series like that. So I'd love that. I'd love that entirely.
That is great. I like that.
very good start to the show, and the scores as they stand. On 10 points, having a very good performance so far, it's Dan. Narrowly ahead on 11, and tied, it's Ed and Chris.
Woo! Wow.
Question number 4 now. Take That have fallen foul of the taxman. And in a return of our two-part question, the first part, who else in the world has been caught trying to avoid paying their way? And we'll start with Chris.
I'm going to go with Charles I and Parliament. He'd mismanaged wars against the Spanish, and he dismissed Parliament, who wanted political concessions to him. But obviously, he had to sort of raise his own tax dollar, without them, because obviously they're the ones meant to be raising taxes. So he starts calling in ship money and stuff. And he managed to bide his time for 11 years. He managed to hold the Parliament off for quite a while, not involving them in government at all. But then things collapsed. He needed money, and in the end, he had to give in and call them back. And he hadn't paid them in exchange for the kind of taxes that he'd been taking from them. He hadn't paid them the political concessions that they wanted. So he'd been avoiding that for ages, and it just got worse. End up with civil war, and then his head gets chopped off. So the lesson to be learnt is that, if you don't pay your money back from Parliament, back in sort of political currency, then you'll have to forfeit your crown and state and head. So don't lose your head, don't get into debt.
You saying Gary Barlow's got real issues?
I'm saying that Gary Barlow problems, if he has problems paying politicians or anyone back, then this may happen to him.
Yeah, he'll lose his head, so...
Yes.
Okay. Ed.
It's the one and only Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
Just mentioning him was enough to make me giggle.
I know, it's just these faces on everything. So back in... Sorry. Yeah, so he racked up a lot of tax, about $6.2 million, I think, for failure to pay his taxes whilst on the films Ghost Rider and Grindhouse, I think. And the thing is, 6.2, I think it was various sources actually. I think one says 6.7 million for another one as well. And he had to try and do everything to try and pay that back. And one of the things that gets me about this is that he had to auction off one of his Action comics in an auction, the first edition, his first one, which apparently broke his heart, but got him $2.6 million back to try and pay this. I think it's amazing. Selling your comics to get money for tax.
Okay, and Dan.
I was just going to say that Nicolas Cage is the stock answer for most quizzes. If you don't know the answer to any film question, just put Nicolas Cage. Most of the time it's right. My one actually is another pop culture icon, or 80s pop culture icon. Not quite Nicolas Cage or as interesting as Nicolas Cage, but it's Wesley Snipes, who throughout his career in the 80s, he was a big 80s movie star, as Nicolas Cage is in general. But I think it was 1998 through to 2000 when he was doing the Blade movies where the tax avoidance caught up with him, and the point that he couldn't actually pay any of the money back because he'd near enough gone bankrupt, and he was actually jailed for 18 months. So in general, he followed a similar route but didn't actually have any money to pay anyone back. So he was then sentenced to 18 months in jail, which was reduced to 14, and then with community service added on. That is not quite as good as Nicolas Cage, personally, but his was a slightly more dirty ending, I think.
And he's back out now, and he's in Expendables 3 out later this year.
Indeed.
And it's only really in the acting trade that you can do all of that and go back into your same job. You couldn't probably do that in any other business.
No, it's very true. You can say, I've been and done hard time, or I've done drugs. Oh yeah, it's just started, do another movie, it's fine.
You could get him in a tobacco tea company, Chris.
He sounds like
I don't know if he can afford fee. Make it lucky.
Nicolas Cage in a tobacco tea company.
I would love that. I want that so much.
We've lost Chris for the rest of the show.
I want to cast Nicolas Cage as whatever the leading man in any given comedy of manners is. So like, if I was doing Ernest or something, I would make Nicolas Cage Algernon. Actually, I think I'd make Nicolas Cage Lady Bracknell.
I get the impression that either this will run for a very, very long period of time or very, very short. One of the two.
well, look, we've already had, everyone from sort of Giles Brandreth to Stephen Fry doing Lady Bracknell in drag. Nicolas Cage needs a drag role. I haven't seen him in drag. He needs to cage rage regarding handbag.
Cage rage or the drag role. Beautiful.
Okay. Question 5 and part 2 of our Take That question. There's actually been talk of taking Gary Barlow's OBE, not his head, his OBE away from him as a result of the tax dodging. But whose OBE, knighthood or honour would you take away? Dan?
I don't actually have a specific person, but generally from... The problem I find is with our current situation and general things like that. Any politician who actually receives an OBE while they're still, or some sort of knighthood / OBE while they're still in power, is not worth it, because it's always based upon things that they're currently trying to do but yet not succeeding in doing. I don't mind if they receive one afterwards, if they've actually done something worthwhile with their time with it. But it seems that if any sort of politician receives some sort of OBE / knighthood / anything which is provided by the Queen during the time of office, I think it's a little bit facetious, but that's just me.
Edgar?
Yeah, kind of a hard one. So I looked at the long list of people who had OBEs. I closed my eyes and I picked one. So Sir Cyril Taylor. Who is a British educator and social entrepreneur. That's the only reason I have him, because Cyril Taylor was the first one I picked. I have no idea on this one.
Because his name's Cyril, isn't it?
Yes. And yes. And Cyril's an amazing villain name.
Okay, Chris, I'm looking forward to hearing whose knighthood you're taking.
I'm taking away the honorary knighthood of the Sultan of Brunei. He has a knighthood, and I'm going to take it away because he has implemented Sharia law in Brunei for no apparent reason, just for lols. So now, like as of a couple of weeks ago, you can get sort of jailed or have your limbs amputated or be flogged in public or stoned to death for wearing indecent clothing, like women not wearing hijabs, employing a non-Muslim babysitter, saying Allah if you're not a Muslim, talking about faith if you're not a Muslim, anything like publicly eating or drinking during Ramadan, theft, homosexuality, obviously, and adultery. So although all that good stuff is now you'll get your limbs hacked off or you'll get stoned to death. But the reason why I would like to beyond how like abhorrent that is, it's that the Sultan is a complete hypocrite who breaks the sort of rules of the Quran all the time. He lives in he and his brother live in like a massive decadent palace with sort of with thousands of rooms and hundreds of bathrooms and swimming pools and like their own mosque and like masses of cars, and they own tens of thousands of Armani suits and they have like thousands of American prostitutes who are and sort of harems composed of underage girls, and that they just order in like a catalogue, like sort of the sort of Prince Geoffrey, who's like the prince's brother, like literally sort of goes through magazines and goes, I want that one, and I want that one, and I want that one, and they fly them all in. It's ridiculous. It's beyond ludicrous. It's actually crazy. Like I posted this on my Facebook the other day. The stuff they own includes like it's beyond like the thousands of houses and things. They have 4 life-size statues depicting Prince Geoffrey having sex with one of his fiancées.
4?
Yeah, 4 life-size statues of that. I'm
sure they wouldn't need more than one, would you?
he named a massive boat Tits and had its kind of lifeboats named Nipple 1 and Nipple 2. They have no idea why anyone thinks this is vulgar, and like a sofa shaped like a Cadillac. It's actually crazy.
How much research on this answer did you do?
Well, I've been paying attention for the last couple of weeks as all this stuff has come out about Brunei, and I basically wished that I was still in contact with Alex Cowley, because I know how desperate he would be to sort of how much he'd be sort of running around flustering about everyone finding out that Brunei wasn't some kind of Eastern paradise.
More about Brunei than I thought I'd ever need to know.
Yeah, I know, right?
This is the brilliance of the Waffle, Dan.
Indeed, I'm very
You
glad.
learn lots of stuff.
You know all about Brunei, and now
There's people sat there going, shall we go to Brunei on holiday this year, darling?
there's so much more. It gets so much worse. The more you dig up about it, the worse it gets, basically. So if anyone wants a good sort of evening's worth of entertainment, I recommend looking into the state of Brunei and the Sultan thing.
I assume Bunbury's Dead won't be performing in Brunei.
No, I don't think we'll quite tour to Brunei. I don't think. No.
We'll stop just before and walk the other way.
Question 6 now. It's the MasterChef final this week. So what dish would you cook the MasterChef judges? Chris?
I would cook them dubstep fish. Bear with me. The preparation is very simple. You drop the bass, and it serves anyone within range. And I'd stuff it with buttery biscuits beforehand.
No.
So that we could have the the biscuit base, to have the buttery biscuit base. Buttery base, buttery biscuit base.
Oh, wow. I now want that as a song. I really want that as a song.
Okay, I'm not...
Yeah, that is actually... It's a YouTube remix of MasterChef. I like the the biscuit base. I like the buttery biscuit base.
Okay, Dan, I'm not sure you can top that.
Unfortunately, no. At the moment in time, I can't think of anything specific, and nothing near as hilarious as a dubstep bass.
I'm so sorry.
I must admit, I may concede on that one there. Unfortunately, I will have to concede, and I can't think of anything better, nor can I think of anything that the MasterChef judges would enjoy.
Just name any meal.
Any meal?
Yeah.
If I was going to... Okay, just as a somewhat ironic twist upon... Well, not upon anything that Chris has mentioned, but I would actually serve one of my favourite meals, which would be the fish finger sandwich. Just how I like it. And if they don't enjoy it, then I will take it away and eat it myself. But that's what I would serve to them with the fun.
Okay, and Ed?
Because I'm an awful cook of any sorts... it's going to have to just try and be the one thing I can do, but made in the most exotic way possible. So the world's most exotic pasta bake. So it would involve just standard pasta, just loads of cheese and caviar, and a mango on the side. And I just hope to hell they love it.
You're forgetting pomegranate seeds, of course.
Oh yeah, pomegranates all the way.
Okay, that's the end of the second round, so it's time for the scores. On 21 points at the back, it's Edgar. On 22, it's Dan. But for his buttery biscuit sea base, it's 25 points for Chris. Question 7 now. American comedy Community has been cancelled cruelly after 5 seasons, despite one of its catchphrases being 6 seasons and a movie. The show is very meta in how characters will reference television and movie stereotypes within episodes. So in honour of Community, other shows and films which poked fun at the genre they were part of. Dan?
Blimey. I'm trying to think of one which actually did poke fun at itself in general. But then again, most things that come to mind is always any sort of canon which Joss Whedon puts together, the first thing that comes to mind would be Firefly most of the time. It enjoyed poking fun at itself.
Sorry, I'm just sorry about that. I don't know if you heard that, but there was a massive bass drop outside my flat as this sort of huge van just went by and rattled my door. So
that's what that was. Yeah, I did hear that actually.
The dubstep fish is back.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's alright. But yes, no, basically I was just going to point out mostly anything done by Joss Whedon majoritively, because it always has the point of trying to poke fun at itself, and it doesn't take itself too seriously whenever it tries and do anything. The biggest one I always mention is Firefly, even though it did run for only one series, got cancelled, and even then, American-wise, it only showed, I think it was 7 episodes. It always enjoyed trying to not take itself too seriously and poke fun at most other stereotypes of any sort of sci-fi genre.
Okay, Chris next.
Okay, I'm going to go with when Sherlock did its season 3, its first episode of the 3rd series. It chose to troll its fans for an hour and a half with including sort of referencing their fan fictions that they would sort of write about, about sort of Sherlock and Moriarty making out as sort of theories for his escape and things like that, which I rather enjoyed. So yeah, that's my answer. That particular episode of Sherlock, which sort of mocked the whole process of speculating about about how he did it, and and him coming back.
And Ed.
My answer is the general series of Red Dwarf, which does pretty much mock most genres and sci-fi in some way or another, and itself a lot of the time. It's not even afraid to stay true to its own facts and canon half the time. I think the show starts off with 169 crew members, most of which die. And they change it to about 1,169 or something like that. But no, it pokes fun at a lot of things. Like the episode Polymorph pokes fun a lot at Alien and pretty much sort of horror sci-fi-esque films in general. And it's hilarious for doing it. And the fact that the character Crichton, who is a mechanoid, is introduced into that series is purely for the fact that a lot of it's a cliche actually of sci-fi to have a robot character in there, so they wanted to bring it in there and then make all the jokes that you could possibly do for that sort of character. It becomes this neurotic sort of fiend who just wishes to be more human, I suppose. So yeah, just Red Dwarf in general.
Brilliant. Final question of the show now. A pair of twins in America were born holding hands. So let's end the show on an upbeat note with other heartwarming stories from the world of babies. Ed.
This is about as heartwarming as a heart on fire. So, I don't like babies. It's not much of a bombshell, but I really don't like babies. So that wasn't very heartwarming to me. So my story is that this warms my heart in a particular way. A person called Camille Allen makes little clay babies, like about the really tiny clay babies, like the size of your palm. And she sculpts them and makes them realistic as possible. Wonderful gift for anyone that would love to destroy the things. You can set them on fire. You can put them on your mantelpiece and, I don't know, use them as clay pigeons or something. But they're wonderful ornaments if you love them. They're lovely little things. Or you could just burn them.
Okay.
I sense some sort of hostility here somewhere.
Yeah, it could have been maybe the amount of babies I had to endure, the parents with their prams and their buggies on the pavements, like using as battering rams, or the crying that keeps you up all night.
I wouldn't know anything about that as of yet.
Okay, let's cross to Christopher Cutting.
I'm going to say like heartwarming stories are that Prince George has already mastered the vast majority of his job. He's already learned to wave and look like he's meant to be there in front of massive crowds all over the world, in his Australia tour anyway. So, he's not even a year old and he's already doing better than Charles. So, so it's a heartwarming story. Efficiency in the royal family.
Okay. And Dan.
Heartwarming story. Specifically about babies. I haven't heard of one recently besides that picture, which, as you mentioned there, of the two children going out holding hands, the twins. But I do remember watching a documentary of a pair of Siamese children, Siamese kids who were born, and they were attached at the frontal lobe, where they couldn't turn and see each other without having to look into a mirror. And they made the decision when they were a little bit older that they wanted to be separate and to be able to look at each other and actually be able to see each other properly and hug each other without having to kind of cause themselves severe injury. And they did that one, and that was one of the documentaries I watched from Channel 4 where they showed that one. It's how you live, it's how they were born directly. And how they decided to live their life, most of it conjoined, until the point they decided as kind of like an entity to be separate and have individual lives.
They came out holding hands as twins. But I'm a twin myself, and my twin sister. I can safely say that they won't be holding hands for much longer. They will find hate in their hearts for each other.
Well, at some point or another.
Yeah.
When rock music enters their life.
Okay, so at the end of the questions, Ed and Dan are on 28. Chris is narrowly ahead on 30.
Ooh.
So we enter the final round, where our guests will present a news headline followed by a 20-second summary of the story. Chris, as you're in the lead, you get to pick the running order.
Okay, I will go Ed, me, Dan.
Ed.
All right. James goes out on a limb. Yep. And the story, James Merrick, graduate of Toronto University, has successfully grafted a mechanical prosthetic arm to replace his missing left one. James, 28, has since used his new arm to perform simple tasks, such as throwing tennis balls and carrying shopping. James hopes to tweak his arm so it can perform more complicated tasks in the future.
Right, okay. Chris.
Okay, mine is Russian man eats hand grenade on train. So there's a Russian man on a train in Western Russia who it's not really known why, but he took out a gun and threatened the train driver to change course to Vladivostok, which is all the way on the east coast of Russia. So it's ludicrous to take a train from the west of Russia to the east of Russia because when someone's got a gun at your head. So that they called the police instead, obviously, and the police surrounded the train. Like the train found an opportune moment to slow down. The police were able to surround it. In defiance, he swallowed a hand grenade that he had with him in order to presumably in order to blow himself up, but it didn't really work. He's in custody now.
Okay. Dan, go after that.
Mine actually is quite a serious one, ironically, after the amusement of the man with the hand grenade swallowing. Mine just basically is the headline saying, scientists are still struggling to understand deadly fungus, which is about a fungus which is attached to the brainstem of humans, or just starting to, and it's basically an infection which is causing issues and preventing people from basically performing their normal function. And it's causing problems with their brainstem and causing brain tumours. But yes, that is, at the moment in time, they haven't sought out a cure directly to that one there, and it's happening in a small amount of people.
Okay, so James goes out on a limb. Chris, do you think that's true or false?
I think that's true.
Dan?
True.
What do you think?
I actually do think that's true. I think I've seen that story before, and I believe it's true.
Okay, what about the Russian man with the hand grenade? True or false?
Oh, that's so ridiculous, though. But this is Chris Cutting. It could be. No, false. I'm going to say false.
Dan?
I am
going to gamble for extra points?
True. I'm going to say true on that one as well.
Okay, and the deadly fungus on the brain, Ed and Chris.
Yeah. I'm gonna say false on that one because the entire thing is remarkably like the plot of The Last of Us. It's the entire thing, turning people into infected for that very reason. And there's no real cure. Yeah, false.
Okay, I'm gonna gamble. I'm gonna go true.
Gonna gamble and go true. Right. So James goes out on a limb. Ed, true or false?
False.
Oh!
Yep. False. I made that one up.
Damn. I'm sure I've seen something very similar to that somewhere.
Yes, there are some similar things, but this one is entirely made up, based on similar stories.
Fair enough.
Okay, so that completely changes everything. The Russian man who ate a hand grenade.
It's false.
Oh.
Sorry. I really wanted it to be true.
Okay, and the deadly fungus. Dan.
It is a full house of falses on that front. It is false, and as was pointed out, it is actually the storyline and the main plot driving The Last of Us, which is true. But yes, but it was originally found from another game I played. It was a newspaper cutting found in a different game made by the same company. So yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, this is an incredible end to the show. Time for the final scores. On 31 points, and a round of applause for his debut because he's been fantastic, it's Dan.
I scored more than 30. I'm impressed by that.
On 32 points, it's Chris.
No.
However, having a fantastic final round, scoring maximum points the entire way through, it's Ed on 36.
Yes.
Oh. Congratulations. Well done.
Ed, you went into that final round on 29 points.
Yeah. I'm amazed by that one, considering I'm normally awful at the true-false round. Oh.
See, this is what we get for kind of isolating ourselves from contemporary affairs in our ivory towers and
pride. Had a hand grenade.
Yeah. If only I'd eaten that hand grenade myself.
Indeed. The storyline would be so much different.
It's fun, good game. I like that.
Okay, so that is it for this week's show. Thank you very much to my guests, for Dan for coming in at very last minute.
Thank you very much for having me.
Chris, who can have 10 seconds to quickly plug Bunbury.
Yes, of course. Bunbury is Dead is an Oscar Wilde play. It's amazing. I should know. I wrote it and directed it. And it'll be on at the Mission Theatre in Bath on the 25th and 26th of June. The Alma Tavern in Bristol from the 2nd of July to the 5th of July. The Beer Cellar Theatre in Bristol on the 20th of July. And Cafe Camino Venue 65 in Edinburgh for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's there for the whole 3 weeks. 2nd to 23rd of August. So come see it. Come see it. It'll be amazing. Trust me. If you liked my thing about dropping sea bass, then you should go.
Thank you, Chris. And of course,
Tobacco Tea Theatre Company. Find us.
This week's winner, the man is back. It's Edgar Duncan.
Couldn't have done it without my ponytail.
Next week with our final show before the summer break. We hope to see you then. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.